Welcome to an NC Live crash course. This video is a quick introduction to using Transparent Language at your library. Transparent Language is an online language learning database with over 100 languages available. To find Transparent Language, we'll start on the NC Live homepage. If you are accessing our resources remotely, don't forget to log in with your library. The easiest way to find Transparent Language is to use the Browse All database link and then jump directly to the T section. The first thing you need to know about Transparent Language is that users will need to create an account to learn a language. When you enter Transparent Language the first time, you will see 3 tabs with one titled Sign Up to create an account. The main reason for an account is to save your language choices and progress in the program. A Transparent Language account does not require you to enter an email address. An account can be created with just a username and password. However, without an email attached, the user will be required to remember the username and password they created, since there won't be any way to log in if they forget or lose them. There is a guest account for a first look at Transparent Language. However, it's not a permanent option. Once you create an account and log into the website, the first thing you will need to do is choose from the list of languages offered. Each language will have different options for dialect choices and native speaker choices. You can see here that Spanish has both Latin American and Castilian Spanish available, while native speakers of Brazilian Portuguese and Turkish will only be able to learn the Latin American dialect of Spanish. Each language is different in the options available. You can see that some of these languages also have a KidSpeak option. KidSpeak lessons are designed for very young learners, using cartoons to teach language lessons. Not all the languages have KidSpeak. Do make sure children have headphones when using this option, unless you want to hear the music too. We'll look at Latin American Spanish for English speakers. Choosing a language to learn will create a learning pathway for that language. When first choosing a new language, the learning pathway will pre-populate with a suggested course of units and lessons. If you scroll down the list, you will see units that have different focus areas. These give options for learning a language to achieve a particular goal. The default lessons for most languages are focused on the activities of someone visiting, like finding transportation, going shopping, or meeting people. But there are other lessons available. If you don't like the options that are preloaded, you can delete some or all of the lessons in your learning pathway and load specific lessons that you want to use. Let's look at some of the specialty lessons and courses for Spanish. To do that, we go up to the tabs at the top and click on Browse. You can see that your language choice will stay the same at the top. On the Browse page, you can see different specialty lessons and courses. You might want to concentrate on learning basic vocabulary, or perhaps your patron wants to learn business or medical vocabulary. Each of these specialty courses will have a list of lessons, and you can add that group to your Learning Path page. You can also add individual lessons in this list to your Learning Path by clicking on the button with the 3 dots and selecting Add to Path, and that will add a specific lesson. To start a lesson, go back to your learning pathway and click Learn on the first lesson. Whenever you start a lesson, you will see overlays that show what's on the page and how the lesson works. If you don't want to see these overlays in the future, just check the Disable All Overlays to stop them from showing. Then click anywhere on the page to start the lesson. Let's take a look at some important information that will get you started in a lesson. Under the menu, you can see all the parts of this lesson, and you can skip forward or backward within the lesson. You can also print or save the lesson text if you like that format better. Each lesson will have a variety of formats for learning. If a patron only wants to focus on improving their pronunciation, they can use their learning pathway to focus on just pronunciation lessons. We'll look at that option in a moment. One thing to remember about the pronunciation practice: patrons will need headphones and a microphone if they are in the library. When a patron needs to respond verbally to the lesson, They will also need to be in an area that allows for noise. Below the lesson section is an assessment section. This is where a patron can test themselves on what they have learned. The assessment requires you to start at the beginning and move through it. A patron won't be able to choose one assessment from this list, but we'll look at how to go directly to a specific lesson test a little later in this video. If a student needs a copy of a test result, you can use the tab at the top labeled My Transcript to print or download a PDF or spreadsheet of results to turn into a teacher. When practicing a lesson, you can see options to slow down the audio, play the sound, advance through the lesson, start the autoplay option, and see more about the word or phrase. This additional information can include a number of things. For vocabulary, you will see a text description and options for listening to examples. At the top right, you can close this pop-up page and return to the main lesson page. In the settings list, there are several options that a patron might need. You can open up the overlay instructions if they have been turned off. The sound can be turned on or off, and there are accessibility options. These are a color option and closed captions for those who need them. Returning to the learning pathway, let's look at how you can choose one style of learning, such as pronunciation or writing. On the right side of the learning pathway, scroll down to see more options for practice and what the icons mean. Listening and speaking options will require headphones, and speaking will require a microphone and space for noise. If that equipment isn't available, the user can pick the reading and writing options instead. You can also see that some of these options have spoken versions. When you click on a practice icon, you'll see the full list of units that include practice lessons in this language. You can see at the top the type of practice you are choosing from, and you can change it here if you would like a different option. Once you have the type of practice you want to do, choose a level number and a lesson. And click Practice Selection at the top. Transparent Language will keep track of the user's progress, and they can also set goals to achieve each day or every week. Okay, let's look at the highlights of using Transparent Language. It provides many different lessons, units, and courses, and patrons can choose which ones they want to complete in their learning pathway. There are a lot of options for listening and pronunciation, so make sure patrons have headphones and a microphone and space for noise. And patrons will need to create an account to learn a language. NC Live has additional training on using Transparent Language. You can find links to those resources in the description section below. Thank you for viewing this NC Live crash course. If you're interested in learning more about our resources and skills that are relevant to librarianship, subscribe to the NC Live YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button below.